Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining my session. Um, First off, a heartfelt thank you to Eletive for creating the space for conversations like this. I've been listening in today, and it was really inspiring to see all the different topics and the connection with AI. That was amazing. This session of me isn't just about sharing ideas, it's really about sparking reflection that leads to something more, hopefully. And if anything resonates with you, or even if it doesn't, or you have any thoughts or questions, please use the Q&A in this chat so that we can explore them later on. But today we're diving really into a question that seems obvious until you really sit with it. So how do we move teams from good to great? And the workplace isn't what it used to be, especially now with the geopolitical tension, the hybrid work becoming the norm. AI really disrupting everything from admin to ambition. And it's really reshaping what great really means. Right? And while hybrid working is no longer a model, but more of a mindset, and AI isn't a tool, but more of a mirror, we used to strive for excellence, but today excellence is merely the opening move in a much bigger game. So what defines teams of tomorrow isn't really how they react to change, but how they become the change. And that will be my session where I will be talking about today. And during the session, I hope that three things happen. I want you to know at the end of this session that great teams are not born, but they are designed. I want you to feel energized and empowered, knowing really that the real competitive edge isn't technology, but really the unique human potential and how you can unlock that human potential. I also want to inspire you to execute at least one culture hack that I will be sharing with you today in your teams this week, which hopefully will bring some change instantly to your teams and to your organization. But the real question today that I want to tackle is one that is really at the heart of every boardroom today. I've seen it in other sessions today as well. It's about AI. And if AI is reshaping what it means to work and how the workplace will be affected, what does it really mean to be great? What does it mean? How can we define that better? So I want to use today AI as an example of how the workplace is reshaped and how we can get teams from good to great. And if you look at AI, around 92% of the companies are investing in Gen AI. And that's closely getting to 100%, but this is data from McKinsey earlier this year. And if you look at the total investment, only 1% of the companies believe that their investment have reached any form of maturity. So there's a really long way to go in order to fulfill the needs and the investments that are made in AI. At the same time, AI and the skill of AI ranks third on the list of desirable skills by 2027. And the interesting thing is that they're behind analytical and creative thinking. And that means something, and because it tells us a bit of a story. Well, at the same time, the fear of becoming obsolete is growing in the workplace. Around 22% of the people by the end of 2024 were afraid that their job became obsolete. And they were unsure how their role would be impacted by the introduction, increasingly introduction of AI. And while at the same time, EY made a survey, and they found that around 72% of the people worry that AI will actually negatively impact their salary or pay. So there's lots of uncertainty in the world that is driving us to think differently. And it will really impact the way we as humanity are organized. So the question I ask myself is, has we faced big changes like this before? And the answer is yes, we are. Because if we look at way back at the first industrial revolution that started in the 1760s, it was the time when steam came on, and the first factories built on steam actually transformed how humans were working and how people were actually earning their money. If we go to the second industrial revolution that started in the 1870s with the introduction of electricity and cars being built, etc., it brought the society to a whole new level of work and looking at work in the society. And it's around that time that school systems were introduced, around the 1900s. And you see an image here of the 1900s, and you see that this was all about structure, discipline, hierarchy, showing that you can memorize things, and you have to prove yourself with good grades. And what the school system at that time did was actually introducing young people to get them ready for the factory work. That was the main goal of the school system. And at the same time, in the 1940s, another change happened with the digitalization of, so the digital revolution started, and computers were introduced. And it brought us to a whole new level of change, from manual work, administration work, to automated digitalized work. And we're still a little bit in this. But really the biggest change so far happened just a few years ago with the introduction of generative AI. And these are all significant changes in society that brought us to a whole new level, of thinking, and that brought us to different changes, and it made people worry about and anxious about what this would mean to the world. So if we look at the school system that was introduced in the 1900s to help to actually educate the factory workers of the future, today's classroom is not so much different. So in 2025, the picture on the right here is one from this year. And again, still today, kids are being trained to follow a certain structure, to execute discipline. Still the teacher is high up and the kids are sitting down to show the hierarchy. It's all about memory. If you can memorize what the teacher is teaching, then you have good grades. And the question I wonder for myself, and while this system is changing slowly, are we preparing our children today for what AI is expecting from us? Because here's a big challenge for us. When I did research around this topic, and I've done research for many years about what makes teams great and how the workplace is responding to this kind of changes, I found that there are two main kinds of thinking in the workplace. You have the scripted thinking, which is really about a scripted work order, a task, etc. And there's an unscripted thinking, which is a little bit thinking out of the box. It's about being flexible in the way of thinking, a little bit more creative. If we zoom in a little bit deeper on this concept, then you could say that scripted thinking and scripted work is really about process control, logic, guidelines, etc., routine tasks, while unscripted work is really about empathy. It's about intuition. It's about moral judgment, being improvised, showing empathy. Right? There are two different kinds. And if you look at the workplace so far still today, then my observation is that around 70% of the work that people do in companies is scripted. And 30% is unscripted, more about thinking out of the box. There's a shift here, and that must happen. But if you put the type of thinking here, you could say that the scripted way of thinking is more the convergent thinking, and more about control structure, and the unscripted thinking is more about divergent thinking. These are two thinking styles. And this is important because this will change, because what AI is actually doing, AI is taking pieces of the scripted work, taking it over from us humans, and what is left is more of the unscripted work. So AI is actually flipping the script to move more towards 70% of the work being unscripted or divergent thinking versus 30% convergent thinking and scripted. And this is changing us a lot, because the question you can ask yourself is, what does it mean to people? How will people respond to this big change? And you can already see in the workplace all over that there's a big resistance to what it means, lots of resistance. We probably all know this picture, and we're all very busy trying to continue with what we know, while the solutions to do things more efficient is just behind us, right? And this resistance has a reason. because we're facing really a tough paradox in in ourselves. Because in today's workplace today's workplace demands really adaptability, right? Especially with AI around the corner, we need to adapt. But the problem is that our brains crave structure and certainty and routine. And that's not a flaw, that's just evolution. That's how our mind works. Right? Our mind is wired to seek patterns and predictability. And that the only reason why we do that and why our brains are doing that is because it conserves our energy. We only have so much energy to operate. And if we have to assume or reassess every single thing that happens around us and what we see, it will consume way too much energy and we cannot handle that. Another reason for us, and that goes way back, is that if we have a predictable world, we feel safe. We have the perception of feeling safe. But the problem is that when the change is accelerating, our mental shortcuts like the habits, routines, and default thinking, they really get disrupted. And when they get disrupted, that's where the tension begins. And this is really the paradox that we're facing, that is bringing us to a whole new level in the workplace. But the truth is that adaptation is really not new to us. There's been a very interesting research done by Professor Dr. George Land, and he got in the 60s a request from the NASA with the request, help us understand how we can get the best, most creative people to work for us. How can we recruit these people that are most creative? Because NASA at that time needed people that were creative, thinkers out of the box. And what this professor did, he started to research at what age we see divergent thinking popping up the most. And he found a very interesting pattern. And he said that at age 5, 98% of us are acting on a very high creative divergent thinking level. He called this the genius level. But the more we got older, at age 10, only 30% of the people were operating at such a high creativity level as we did on age 5. And at age 15, it was 12. And by the time that these people that were researched got to adulthood, only 2% of the people maintained their high levels of divergent thinking and creativity. And this really tells us a story, right? Because bottom line, we were creative, we had it in us, but somewhere along the way, we lost this ability. Because we weren't really born to think in boxes. We were not born because we have shown differently. We're really trained to think in boxes. We're trained to think in patterns. And this is an interesting thing, but if you look at it, the school system that we had, the social norms that are around us, especially in the past, but also society in itself, it's creating us to think differently. It's creating a perspective where we need to think in boxes, where we have to think in structure. And this is challenging us actually to think differently and to forget about the creative open mind and the fearless way of thinking. And it's driving us more to, you have to think in the box because that's safe and we don't want to do something that's unsafe. And this part is challenging us today. So if you look at it, our true challenge really isn't keeping up with technology. It's really reclaiming the divergent thinking that we lost along the way. It's still here. We're just blocking it out. It's suppressed. And we need to find ways to go along with AI to get it back. And here's a challenge for us, right? Because it calls us, especially those in leadership positions, into a richer reflection of how we look at the workplace and how we look at people. Are we guiding people towards KPIs? Or are we really trying to guide people to wholeness, to be themselves, to guide them to be as creative and divergent thinking as possible? These are two important deviations. And really, this isn't about overstepping boundaries. It's really about recognizing that real performance is actually deeply human. When leaders understand that their people understand their people as more than roles and resources, when they really align professional growth with personal aspiration, they don't really dilute performance, they really amplify it. And that's what I've seen over and over in exceptional teams. So more than ever, We need leaders who don't just manage tasks, but they really should elevate lives. That should be their main goal. So, how do we do this? How can we flip the script in our workplace? What can we do that is manageable from a leadership perspective to change people and to make it a little bit less scary? And I think the first step is to create an to encourage curiosity and questioning. We have to learn that in environments like the workplace, it's okay to be curious. It's okay to question. That kind of things often is suppressed too much in companies today. We also should start brainstorming without judgment. A very big change that I see exceptional teams do when they brainstorm without judgment, that's more divergent thinking. They make sure that in that session they avoid any convergent thinking. So, in other words, I have this amazing idea, and that's great. Talk about it, brainstorm, dream about it, but don't immediately kill it with the let's say the old-fashioned thinking of, okay, but this might not work for us, or this is not who we are. Right? We need to think differently. We need to create a space and separate the two types of thinking. Another thing is experimenting. We need to experiment more. We need to think differently, and we need to allow people to experiment and look less of how much hour you spend with us, but more how much experiments that you took you did with us that made a difference for the company or for the team. And the last one is find meaning at work. Meaning will be driving people towards a certain direction without you telling them. That's meaning at work. If people feel meaning at work, it makes a big difference. So in my view, the structure that our brains will perceive as normal in the future is really about meaning and purpose. Without purpose and meaning, people are lost, and we freak people out. The more purpose and meaning you provide to your teams and to your people, the more they feel comfortable enough to make decisions that lead them towards that goal and more towards self-management. So if you think about the new side, what will be left for the people that are more convergent thinkers, the process thinkers and the control thinkers? And there is a lot of work left. It's not that we're completely shifting one way. We need both. Even in the future when AI is really driving us to the next level. Because risk assessments are important because AI doesn't fear risk. So we need to help AI to understand what is right and what's wrong. Human reasoning is important because real understanding will blend emotion, context, and consciousness, something that AI struggles to do. Moral dilemmas need humans because machines don't wrestle with right and wrong. And we do, but they don't. And analytical precision is important because humans still frame the question and validate the answers. And AI often doesn't. And this is important. So we're not changing completely from one side to the other. We're shifting, but there's still a lot to do for the convergent thinkers. So how can you do that? How can you shift teams from good to great? And there are 6 practical culture hacks, and I will go through them quite quickly because I think they're easy enough. But number 1, invite bold ideas and real conversations, even when they challenge the norm. I referred to that already a little bit earlier. Create a space of bold ideas, real conversation, and make sure that people are not suppressed by certain norms or boxes. Number 2, create intentional space to move employees from I have a job to I'm part of something meaningful. In my experience, around 70-80% of the teams that I enter and I'm asking, okay, why do you exist with this team? What is the reason of your existence in the bigger scheme of things within the company? I usually get complete different answers. Teams are not aligned on the meaning and on the purpose, and we need to help them achieve that. And the more successful we're in that, the more purpose and meaning we'll inject into teams. 3, embed a mindset of curiosity. So we need to shift people from plan and execute to try and learn, adapt. Now, of course, plan and execute is still important, but we have to mix them. Try, learn, adapt, and then plan and execute, right? And mix that up. Very important. Number 4, when we shift our words, we shift our world. the number one problem that I see in companies that struggle with cultural change is that they're using words that are not representing the change that they want to see. You probably all recognize things like, what is the right answer? Is this realistic for us? That's not how we do it in this company. What will people think if we execute it like this? Let's be practical. All these kind of things that are pushing us back. But what we want to do is we want to switch it with words that are really meaning something differently. Right? We want people to ask themselves, what if we tried something different? How else can we approach this? Or what is missing that nobody is talking about? This is shifting our mindset to a different kind of thinking. Number 5, encourage your team to regularly identify one habit, process, or belief that no longer adds value. Also, that I see all the time. We keep doing things and then we often forget the value of what we do. Identify it, and here's the important thing, also replace it with a smarter future fit alternative to make people think and be aware what it means. Number 6, the last one, practice mindset monitoring. I call it mindset monitoring because many companies don't understand how important it is to measure what matters most, to measure your people's thinking, your people's perspective. We need to help understand the patterns within our people so that we can drive them and help them understand where we need them to move. And we need to start measuring what's right. And that I don't mean every 3-4 times a year an engagement survey, because this is not helping. I mean real time, any moment of change, or any moment we make a different decision that might impact people. And I swear I'm not working for Eletive and I'm not being paid to do this, but Eletive is an amazing platform that provides exactly this kind of data. And if you're not working with them today, you should be paying attention to what they do, because this will be a game changer and it is pure gold for the people that experience this data. So if there was one thing that I want you to keep to remember after my session, is that the future doesn't really happen to us. It belongs to people that create it. Right? So it belongs to the leaders who build cultures where curiosity beats control. It belongs to the leaders where purpose is stronger than predictability, and where humans rise, not just alongside big shifts like AI, but really because of them. That's very important. So shifting from good to great starts with you, really. Right? It's with what you model, with what you embody, with what you show, and what you choose to stand for. Because at the end, I always tell people, culture is really what you teach without words. That's what defines the quality and the speed of your teams. Thank you very much for your time. I'm curious if there are any questions. Let me. I don't see. Okay, I love the message of more meaningful, purpose-driven, and creative workplaces, but I cannot help to think that what might kill this in many companies is the focus on the business growth and efficiency. What are the best arguments to drive this topic? Yeah, this is a classic discussion, what I hear all the time, and I can tell you that there's always a bit of a tension between profit and purpose, right? So, and that is traditional, especially in the bigger companies where shareholders are really only caring about money and shares rather than purpose. But it's proven over and over that companies that really choose purpose, they actually are more profitable. Sometimes they often outperform their competitors because people make the right decisions at the right time. They're not guided on the task level, they're guided on a meaningful purpose level. So people create more purposeful changes in the company that brings the company to the place where they want to be. The challenge here is often that the purpose is not clearly defined in a way that people on the floor understand it. Right? So if you connect it well together, if you really balance it out, you will reach a very high level of purpose-driven companies and also very profitable companies. Okay, any more questions? We have 5 more minutes left. Or any observations? Okay, I see one here. What would be your tip to improve one's own divergent thinking? I feel like sometimes I'm worst at judging and critique. I bet my worst at judging and critique, yeah. The answer here is purpose, right? Ask yourself why I'm here. What is my role in the system where I'm part of? Right? This is really key. You have to understand where you stand for, what is your unique quality that you want to give in this world, and that's often a little bit seen as a soft question, but really, if you ask people in a team, okay, why does a team exist, and they have a clear understanding, and if you then ask, okay, but how does your personal purpose aligns with the purpose of the team and the company? If you can connect these two together, people are flying, because then you give people meaning, and you also give people lots of positive energy, but because they will be fully working on their purpose. Often when people are more critiquing and more skeptical, yeah, they're often still searching for what is the best place for them to be. Okay, one more question. Oh, that's the same question that I got here. We have time for one more question. What about intercultural competence and collaborative leadership in context of great teams? Yeah, intercultural competence is really important, but often misunderstood. Because if you look at the intercultural competence, it boils down to one very simple thing, and that is how well are teams equipped to not judge other people based on their own norms and values, but be open for differences. Right? This is the thing that I'm teaching teams with different cultures. It's not really about understanding different cultures. It's about understanding what culture does to you, your inner self. And that culture, actually, the differences in culture will make you judge. And the more that you avoid judgment based on your own norms and value, the more you can be open to differences in teams. And the best teams, the most exceptional teams, understand this simple thing. Because they know that they don't judge but be open to differences, they will move forward faster as long as they have a common purpose. And that's key. Okay. I think these were all the questions. I want to thank you very much for your time. If you would like to connect with me, find me on LinkedIn, and I would love to answer any questions after this session as well. Thank you so much.